In an ever-expanding digital world, the internet has become the stuff of which our lives are woven. It is a vast, tangled stream of information, entertainment, and connections, a seemingly endless expanse of possibilities. But for those who dare to look too deeply into it, it can also be a portal to some of the most unspeakable horrors imaginable. That's exactly the kind of terrifying lesson Emily learned. It all started with a simple internet search that many of us do every day without giving it a second thought. Emily, a curious and tech-savvy college student, immersed herself in the world of true crime, fascinated by the dark depths of the human psyche. But little did she know that her innocent introduction to this dark subject would soon turn into a nightmare. Scrolling through the search results, Emily slipped deeper and deeper into the slumbering world, stumbling upon forums and websites dedicated to the most disturbing and taboo topics. The dark web, as it was called, was a shadowy realm where depraved and insane people congregated, dealing in everything from illegal weapons to the most perverted forms of human use. Despite the growing unease creeping up her spine, Emily's curiosity was unwilling to subside. She maneuvered through the maze of encrypted websites and anonymous user profiles, her fingers trembling as she uncovered layer after layer of depravity and violence. Then one fateful night, she made a mistake that would haunt her for the rest of her days. She clicked on a seemingly innocuous link, a video that promised to show the best true crime documentary ever. What she saw in the next few minutes was forever imprinted on her psyche. The footage that played on the screen was unlike anything she had ever seen before. Brutal, ruthless torture and murder that made her shake and her stomach churn with horror and disgust. She tried to close the tab to erase the memories, but the effect had already taken its toll. From that moment on, Emily couldn't bear to watch the screams and sickening crunching of bones coming from the speakers. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and every shadow that flickered in the corner of her eye gave her a paralyzing fear. And then the messages began to arrive, cryptic, anonymous notes that seemed to know too much about her, taunting her with the realization that she was seeing things she wasn't meant to see. Emily's heart raced with each new message, and her hands shook as she tried to make sense of the situation she found herself in. In desperation, she turned to the authorities, hoping they could offer her protection or help. But the response she received was startling. The dark web, she was told, is a maze of encrypted data and anonymous users who cannot be traced or destroyed. There's nothing they can do to help. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's paranoia only intensified, and her every waking moment was consumed by the fear that her misbehavior had made her a target. She jumped up at every sudden noise, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. And then one fateful night, her worst nightmare came true. As she lay in bed, a sharp chill swept through the room, and she felt the presence of an unkind force in the darkness that seemed to loom over her. Gathering her wits, she reached for the lamp, and her fingers trembled as she flicked the switch. What she saw in the flickering light froze the blood in her veins, a figure shrouded in shadow, whose features were subtle, but whose intentions were all too clear. With a primal scream, Emily sprang from the bed and ran out of the room with her heart pounding, the sound of twisted laughter in her ears. She ran, stumbling and panting, until she finally burst through the front door into the safety of the night. But as she stood there, shivering and disoriented, she realized the nightmare was far from over. The web had taken hold of the girl, and it was impossible to break free from its dark embrace. Whatever horrors awaited her ahead, she knew she would have to fight them to avoid further danger that could be worse than death.